Crystal. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dr. Shazetta. I hope you're doing well. Listen, I am on location this week in Charlotte, North Carolina, here actually attending a conference, but I've got some free time today before I have to kind of clock in, if you will, for the conference I'm here for. So I wanted to spend a few moments with you all today to really just share something that I've been toying around with that's really been on my heart the last few weeks, if not few months. But oftentimes sit down in conversations with folks and my heart gets heavy. And sometimes I sit and navigate through my own life and my heart becomes heavy because I realize how easy it is to get to a place where we feel like we are stuck in a rat race, not really doing the things that our hearts desire, or as Dr. Katie Cannon would say, not really doing the work that our souls must have. And so I wanted to come on today just to chat with you all for a minute about what it means to kind of press reset on your life and begin dreaming again. You know, it's really interesting whenever you meet little children, and I remember even being a child in school or at church, and folks would always come up after they ask you your name and whether you like school and what grade you in and how old you are. The next question is generally, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And inevitably, children have all of this laundry list of things that they want to be. There seems to be no limit on their imaginations. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a mad scientist, right? And it changes from day to day because when we're that age, when we're kids, like there is in our minds no limit, no thing that can hold us back from becoming, right, what we want to be. But when we start getting older, particularly when we enroll into school, right, about that second or third grade time, we start beginning to receive these messages, subliminal or direct, from society, from education, from family, that suggest that there is one path, right, one traditional path towards success. They tell us we can be whatever we want to be when we grow up, but then when you begin to move kind of in unconventional ways, you're reminded that there are these, traditional ways, traditional definitions of what it means to be successful. You're going to go to school and you're going to graduate with good grades. You're going to enroll in university and graduate from there. Perhaps you're going to go on to graduate studies. You're going to get a good paying job with benefits and retirement, and you're going to invest and you're going to do all these things. You're going to purchase a home. You're going to settle down and get married. You're going to have children. You're going to continue to work said stable job. And after however many years you put into the job, you're going to retire and get a gold watch and live and enjoy your retirement. But we know the truth is that by the time many folks get to retirement, it's not really an enjoyable process. And a lot of folks, if you talk to those in retirement age now, look back over their lives and wish that they had done a lot more with their lives than they did. It's not to say that they have regrets, right? That they despise what they did, but they realize many times they wish they had gone. I wish I had gotten the extra degree. I wish I had traveled the world a little bit more. I wish I had spent more time with my family. But because of this message of what it means to be traditionally successful, they let go of, if you will, that childish sense, of imagination. We come into that particular season of our lives when we begin to be, I guess, adults. We move into adulthood, trying to keep up with, all of the expectations of the world and society and family and employers, right, to be successful. And so we work really hard to fit into these confines, right? And for the vast majority of us, the imaginative world that we thought existed as children moves further and further away from our minds, right? We move further and further away from the innocence of our childish thinking. I think when I talk to people every day who find themselves kind of stuck in this pursuit of success and this pursuit of, navigating conventional spaces and conventional confines, they're often bogged down by like mortgages because, to be successful, you're supposed to purchase a house, or other bills, because inevitably to be who we're supposed to be, bills are just a part of it. Student loans, bogged down by jobs that they do and do well because they've gone to school for them, so it's in their field, but they actually kind of hate hate, it's miserable going to them, every single morning. And so they've stopped being able to imagine. They can no longer imagine, right? Living a life of freedom, living a life of joy, living a life where you get up really excited every morning about the work that you're doing. Like you're really doing something you feel called to. You're really doing something that gives you a sense of purpose. And I talk to so many people who, if we talk about it for long enough, really get emotional, right, about it, because they realize that somewhere along the way they have stopped dreaming and believing that anything is possible. To be truthful, I was that kid, right? I literally wanted to be everything, and I made it my business to learn how to be all of the things that I wanted to be. My mom used to always say, and my siblings used to make fun of me, Shazetta wants to learn to swim, and so she's gonna go get the goggles and flippers and the wetsuit and the whole nine to try it, only to discover that I didn't care for swimming, right? But I had tried it at least, and I kind of carried that into, my adulthood. What I did know, I didn't necessarily know the what I wanted to be specifically, because it seemed like to me, even as a kid, that choosing one thing, like, why would you do that, right? And so my mom was always really concerned, no, you need to settle down and do one thing. No, I don't want to do that. And so it meant that, even in trying new things, I knew that I didn't want to work a 9 to 5 job. Like I just didn't want to do it. I tried it once or twice and it didn't last very long for me. And so I settled into living a more kind of free and creative life. What can I do contract work wise? Are there small businesses or side hustles that I can do? And those things worked for a while. Like I've never been homeless, never gone without food, probably come really close sometimes to a couple of those things. But I've had enough family and support systems to keep that from being the case. But there came a time though when I got really tired of just running and doing side hustles and working business ideas just to pay the bills. And so it became that, like the creativity and the passion and the excitement for doing some of the things that I was doing just kind of disappeared, right? And so it was sustaining, me and my living, and was bringing income into our household. Specifically after I got married, I was able to contribute to the household, and so it was sustaining, but the work itself and the way that I was going about it wasn't really, sustainable. I did it for years, but as our responsibilities grew and as bills grew and all of these things grew, I got or moved really close to a place of burnout. And so I stopped being creative. I stopped trying to be creative. I stopped thinking that being creative, as a sustainable way of living was possible. It was like, well, perhaps my mom was right. Perhaps the people in my life were right that me not working a 9 to 5, me not, doing things the conventional way wasn't the wisest decision. Perhaps I need to, regroup and go back to something more conventional. But then 2020 came, right, as I was considering that, right? And we all know that the global pandemic hit us hard in 2020. And so because of that, one of my businesses or side hustles, which was our media company arm, really picked up business as folks were reaching out saying, okay, how do I, particularly on the ministry side of things that I do, how do I sustain my ministry and my business in this virtual space? I need your help streaming. I need your help editing videos to post on social media. I need to know how to post on social media. So the business picked up. But as it picked up, and I was excited for it picking up because obviously it was more income coming into our household in a really critical time when other places were closing down. But as I was doing it and doing it at the level that I was doing it, because I hadn't built a scalable model, right, it again wasn't sustainable. And I started despising doing that work. And I'm just now getting back to a place where I'm willing to do things on screens, but I burned out, right, in a burned out completely, where I was already kind of just running on fumes, right? I was doing these things in the creative space, but it wasn't just the spontaneous creativity that I was used to. And so I burned completely out, right? Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Like I felt really depleted. And so I just stopped being creative for a while. But then 2021 came, really the end of 2020 came and 2021 came, and I decided that it was time for a reset, right? And so my husband and I began talking about it, right? I essentially stopped doing everything, and it was hard because when you build up relationships that are based on expectations, when you hold yourself to the side hustle life and you're just doing side hustles to pay the bills and not really saving and building a sustainable business model, right? You stop doing everything, it becomes really hard and there becomes a level of strain. But I knew that in order to reset, I had to stop doing everything that I was doing so that I could get a grasp of what I wanted to do, right? So that was critical for me. We moved to a new place. Like we literally picked up and moved from Dallas, Texas to Washington, D.C. with no real plan. I was decided to be a resident minister and was accepted into the residential ministry program at Georgetown, which provided housing for us, but there was no income associated with it. But we knew that we had housing covered, and so if we had housing covered, right, that we could figure out the rest. And so it was a big faith leap, right? It was a big jump, a big faith leap, but we knew, right, that this reset was critical. So we literally moved to a new place, and because of that, because we were in a place we had never been before with very few local relationships, we were able to slow down significantly. Something interesting happens when you slow down. One, your body responds favorably to you, right? I feel like I slept for months, right? It was certainly days. We just slept and slept and slept and slept and didn't realize that our bodies were as tired and as exhausted as they were. But they were. So we slowed down and fueled our bodies and gave our bodies a chance to respond to or to recover from all that we had been putting it through. And our bodies thanked us, right, for that. We then, stripped down to the minimum things. We don't have a steady income coming in right now. We need to decide, right, the things that are absolutes and the things that aren't. Because again, my end goal was to get to a place where I could dream and be creative again and be self sustaining through my work, and really doing work I wanted to do and nothing more, right? And so we stripped down to the bare minimums, right? We decided to let one of our cars, to sell one of our cars. It was actually the last of our cars, to sell our car and to rely on public transit and walking everywhere in the DC area. That's not a hard thing to do. So it was feasible for us. That cut out a big chunk of our expenses. We changed our cell phone carriers, right? We stripped things down to the very minimum, so that our finances weren't as much of a strain, right? And so we began experimenting with minimalism. What does it look like to live with significantly less? And we found that in doing that, even as we sold some things off, we donated some things, we tossed some things that needed to be tossed. As we did that, there were less items in our home, but our home had so much more opportunity to be full of the things that were important to us, to be full of the things that actually brought us joy. And then we started, working to rebuild from there. And I know you're saying, Dr. Gisetta, that sounds cool, but how am I supposed to stop doing everything? I'm not saying it's going to be an easy process, and perhaps you can stop doing everything at one time like I did. That was a big sacrifice for us, and I felt like we were in a better position to do it than many of you are. We were renting at the time, so we didn't have an actual mortgage. We had a $1,700 rent, right, in Dallas. But we had other things, but we made the decision together to stop doing everything. If you can't stop doing everything, then I encourage you to just sit down and make a list of all the things that you do. What are all the things that are on your plate, and how do you begin chopping away one at a time those things that are not necessary, right? And it'll take some honesty, and it's going to take some work for you to really, and some sacrifice, because a lot of the things that are on our plates we feel responsible for. But the truth is, what are the things that someone else can do, or what are the things that if you stop doing, or if you fell sick or fell ill or incapacitated for any reason, that if they weren't done, it wouldn't be the end of the world. These are the things I want you to look at removing from your list. Give yourself permission to remove those things from your plate. Moving to a new place may not be possible for you. I get that. But if you can, try it. Don't be afraid. And again, the reasons that you have for not moving to a new place, make sure they're like real reasons that are prohibitive, not just moving out of fear. Moving to a new place isn't necessary to start over and to press reset, but shift yourself in such a way, right? That you are able to detach from relationships and responsibilities that are tied to that geographical location. You need the space to be able to work and to be creative and to really just breathe, right? The aim for us moving to a new place was to give us an opportunity to breathe without having to navigate expectations that were tied to our geographical location, right? Everybody can do this one. Slow down. Society has built this culture where we are to do, where the aim is to be the most productive as we can, to increase our productivity. We heard it beginning to emerge years and years ago when a significant selling point was your ability to multitask. Why do we need to be able to multitask? Why can't we do one thing at one time and do it well? That is the healthy way to do things, right? Slow down. Find time and ways to slow down. One of the ways that we've done it is we give ourselves more time to be somewhere. And so if I know I have to be somewhere at 8 a.m. instead of getting up at 7:15 and then having to scramble to get dressed and through traffic and all of that, I get up way earlier so that I can have time to slow down and to be with myself and to honor my body's needs to navigate itself, or to ease itself, I should say, right into the day. Find ways to slow down and don't feel like you have to ask for forgiveness to do it. When someone says, hey, I need something by 5 p.m. tomorrow, I really wish I could help you, but I can get it to you, by noon on whatever the day after that is, right? To slow down and give yourself the permission. And even though we feel pressure sometimes from outside forces, whether it be employers or family or friends, to succumb to the pressure, the time pressure that they put on you. I have a mentor who says, your poor planning does not my emergency make. Give yourself the opportunity and the respect to say, no, I can't press myself that hard, but I will push to get it to you a little sooner, right? Allow yourself to slow down and just enjoy being with yourself and your company. Things go a long way for me anyway in the morning when I get up before my family gets up and spend some time with a cup of coffee or just staring at the ceiling or doing whatever it is that is good for me. It slows me down, and I've gotten to the place now where even if I have a to-do list of 10 things, if I get to thing number 4 and I'm feeling anxiety and pressure because there's so much I need to complete, right, over the course of a day, I literally will give myself permission to move those things to the next day or to the next available day so that I'm not navigating through pressure. These days, anxiety and stress, right, are not worth it for me. And by slowing down, you'll begin to identify what those thresholds are for you and for yourself. Give yourself permission to slow down, y'all. It's hard, but once you give yourself permission, it's really hard to go back to doing it the unhealthy way. And then stripping down to, considering minimalism. We are not only a society that believes in hyper productivity, but we are also a society that believes in hyper consumerism. I'm not saying don't buy anything. I'm not saying strip down to mats on the floor, although we did that, right? We had nice furniture. We sold everything, went to floor cushions. I wanted to try and experience life the way that some of the happiest people in the world do, and they do it with very little. But for you, it could mean just going through your house and getting rid of clutter, right? A lot of times, the way that we keep our home is indicative of how our minds are. If your house is full of things on top of things on top of things, probably your mind is unable to separate and just deal with a few things at a time as well. And so consider that. The other part of moving toward a more minimalist lifestyle, it's going to save you money and it's going to save you time. And when we're stripping down, trying to press reset, those things are important, right? That we're not wasting time, navigating through all of our belongings, but also that we are not wasting money. I spend money. I love electronics in particular, but I try to only spend money on things that I love, things that bring me joy, and things that I'm actually going to use. All right. So think about what are the excessive things, material things in your life that you can begin, right, letting go of, so that it moves you closer to your desired, right, life of freedom and imagination and creativity. Once you've done that, right, then you start rebuilding from there, right? And it takes time. I want you to know, right, that this is 2024. I talked to you about deciding about reset right in 2020, but really I started knowing years ago what I wanted to do, right? That I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. I wanted to have some measure of freedom, but we pressed reset at the end of 2020, early 2021, and I'm just now, right, at the place in 2024 where I can really say I'm beginning to see the fruit, I guess, of that reset, right? It's going to take time. There'll be challenges, right, that will come up for you. They're going to be fear is going to attempt to, rear its head, but I want to encourage you to put fear back in its place. The only thing to be afraid of is to wonder is to be afraid of, not having tried something that could have been life-changing, for you. It's going to take time. Be patient and be consistent. Like I said, you might not be able to walk away from your job right now. You might not be able to, pick up and relocate, but start with the small pieces that you can do, right? It's not going to be perfect. The other thing is to be okay with not being surrounded by a crowd of people. This is now an unconventional way of living, right? The conventional way, like I said, is to have a stable paying job, to sit in one place, to build and to do, right? All of the things. May not necessarily have a crowd of folks in your immediate circle around you who are going to understand and who are going to support you. You've got to be okay with that for a small period, right? You've got to be okay with that for a small period. Don't get angry at them, right? Don't be frustrated by it. They don't know and they've not necessarily seen folks like us, right, who do this sort of thing or who dare to do this sort of thing and come out successful. And at the end of the day, some of their, their hating, if you will, or their pushback to you is really out of concern and care. And so don't be angry. Just know that this is an unconventional way of doing things for them. And so they'll need some time to understand. Decide what's important to you first, right? Out of all the things that I've listed for you, right? The stopping everything, the moving to a new place, the slowing down, the stripping down, the minimalism, all of those things might not be possible, but make a list and decide what are the things you're going to begin working on today. Perhaps you're going to just slow down today. Look at your schedule and say, what's the one thing on my list that I can just cancel or postpone or that I don't need to do in the first place? Name for yourself what are the important things and then begin to push toward and work toward those things. Once you decide what's important for you, you've got to hold yourself accountable, right, for those important things. And then once you're in a rhythm of honoring the things that are important to you, you can then begin to build, right, a system of support around you. You all, this is what is needed and necessary to position ourselves to be able to dream again. Now that I have, done these things over the last few years, I literally got to a place at the end of last year where I could begin imagining again what might be possible through my creativity. I went a year almost without really picking up my camera in any significant way. And you can kind of see the gaps on my Instagram. You can certainly see the gaps, right, on this YouTube channel. And I've only gotten to a place, in the last 6 to 8 months where I'm, this calendar year, where I'm finally at a place where I feel like I have permission to dream more fully. It took getting rid of all of that stuff, processing through all of that stuff, the people that were around me, the responsibilities that I had or have. I was working two or three side jobs and contract things and hustles to make ends meet. But as I was doing those things, I was stripping back the things that weren't important and giving myself permission to walk away. And by giving myself permission to walk away from doing those things, I gave myself permission to sit and say, or ask myself the question that I was asked as a little girl. So what do you want to be when you grow up? And I began writing a list down. And now I'm at the place where I'm free, where I feel free, right, to pursue those things, to dream and to consider that anything I imagine in the moment might actually be possible. What I've achieved over the last few years is I've removed the box, right, that society and expectations have placed around me. And that's what I want to encourage you to do also today. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. This isn't a, oh, everything will be perfect type of deal. This is no, give yourself permission to dream again. And as you continue dreaming, as you continue experimenting, there are going to be ways and times and opportunities for you to be able to live more fully into who you're called to be, to live more fully into who you desire to be, and to walk right in ways in your life, right, that will be nourishing to your soul, that will be life-giving, right, things that you will be able to do and do well. As Dr. Katie Cannon says, you'll be able to find the work, right, that your soul needs, that fills you up even from your most empty of places. And so I invite you to dream again, my friends. Dream, 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 dream again. Listen, I hope to share more of these kind of thoughts with you all over time. And so if you like this video, I encourage you, invite you actually to go and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit the bell so that you receive notifications once I've uploaded new content. This isn't a place where I'm trying to strike down or to embrace a niche of any kind. I believe that for me to disregard any portion of who I am is to deny all of who I am. So you'll see on here inspirational stuff, intellectual stuff, and certainly creative things, because this is the place where intellect, inspiration, and creativity collide. Listen, thank you for watching. I hope that all is well, and I hope to hear from you. So hit me a DM, inbox, hit me a DM. You can also go to visit my website, www.drshazetta.com. Again, that's www.drshazetta.com. It's constantly under construction, so don't hold me to it. I'll get it done when I get it done, but you can reach out to me and contact me there as well. Hope that you all are well. Take good care. We'll holler back at you now.